So does anybody have any questions on that lever mechanic to prevent our opponent from passing? That's what we went over on Tuesday, so it was just a little review. So again, our focus this week is guard retention. Specifically though, we're focusing on how to use levers to help us with our guard retention. So lever control is always one of the most efficient ways to control your opponent because a lever is just a force multiplier. So it doesn't really matter how big your opponent is, you're gonna have a mechanical advantage over them. So what we're gonna work on tonight is gonna be understanding how to use the spider hooks to give us lever control. So when I'm on my back and I'm playing guard, my opponent can grip up here. Remember, I'm always trying to look for the ankle grips. And the reason for that, in case you're unfamiliar, is if I'm able to grab onto an ankle, I'm essentially cutting off one of his legs. He can no longer move this leg without keeping me along with him. Okay? So our ultimate goal is to try to grab both of his ankles. If I can grab both of his ankles, I'm going to make him fall down, right? It's just a surefire way to do it. So our goal is to always try to control an ankle. However, that's not going to be the case necessarily. So what we looked at on Tuesday was matching the grips, and as they go to pass, I'm creating that internal rotation of his shoulder, accessing this lever, hip escaping, and resetting our hip angle. So if we follow our concept of guard retention, we are going to block the leading edge of our opponent's body and then recompose our hip angle. So in this case, he's trying to pass with his shoulder. He's trying to drop the shoulder down when he's doing the Toreando pass. So by accessing that lever, I'm blocking his shoulder and preventing it from moving, and I'm turning my hips back into him, pointing the headlights at him. So today we're going to be using the spider guard, or spider hooks more specifically. We're not actually going to learn how to play spider guard. We're just going to understand how to use spider hooks to access the lever to control my partner's shoulders. So when I'm in this position, guys, I'm still going to be holding onto the sleeves in the exact same way we were doing. I'm going to be getting into what we call a spider guard position. Spider guard is where I have my feet hooked onto his elbows, just like this. Now, my knees can just stay bent, okay? And as far as getting my legs into this position, we're going to be looking to extend and then just to make a tiny little circle with our feet, okay? And I can have both of my feet just kind of hanging out here passively. They don't have to necessarily be pushing like this. They're just going to be passively hanging out. Now, when my opponent goes to pass on a particular side, I'm going to be gaining lever control with one of these hooks as an extension. So let's say Coach Seth is passing to my right, his left. As he goes to do this, I'm going to be turning onto our side, just like our headlights drill. And whatever side he's moving towards, in this case my right, ideally we're going to be using that right leg. I'm going to stiffen that leg and push him away from me. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because I'm trying to turn his opposite shoulder away from me, but I'm also trying to bring his feet closer to me. Remember, our whole goal is to try to get to the legs. So after I extend this away, I'm going to start to elevate my hips and come back to control an ankle. And so now I have the best possible grip here with an ankle control, and I can immediately look to set up a sweep. So this is going to be our first layer, guys. We're going to talk about when we can use the other leg. So for right now, we're just going to, again, use the leg on the side that they're passing towards. So in slow motion, as he goes to move to that side, I'm turning onto my side. I'm trying to create an angle. This is what we talked about on Tuesday. If I stay flat on my back here like this, then my legs are at a good angle for him to start pushing them away and accessing them as levers to pass my guard. So what I'm trying to do is as he's moving, I'm turning and facing him. So now my leg is at more of a dominant angle to make it more difficult for him to simply drag it across his body. Whatever side of my body he's on, that leg is simply going to push straight out. My other leg, generally, it does this automatically, but I'm going to mention it in case you don't realize what's happening. My other leg is going to kind of pull back a little bit. It doesn't have to go very far. It doesn't have to look pretty, but I'm not going to be extending both legs, okay? I'm extending one leg away from me, and I'm trying to focus on keeping that opposite corner rotated away. Once I'm in this position, guys, I'm just going to center my hips back up. To do that, I'm going to start to stand up on his arms and lift my hips as I swivel back in front of him. Now, because I was able to do that lever control and push him over this way, by taking a step, he's going to get his foot in range after I center my hips back up to grab an ankle. And now you're done, okay? So that's going to be the end of my rep. All right, so again, we're going to start at the exact same way. Match grips, circle in, circle in. As he moves to the right, I push, center up, and then grab either the ankle or the pants. It doesn't matter, guys. It's the same grip, right? But I'm going to hold on to one of these two options here. All right, guys? Let's do the other side real quick. So he grabs my pants. I counter grip. Now if he moves to my left leg pushes. But notice again, I'm on my side, okay? I'm not keeping my hips pointing up into the sky here. Once I'm in this position, I'm going to start to lift my hips up, center up, and I grab the other ankle. So real quick note, how do I know which ankle to grab onto? Generally, it's going to be whatever ankle is closest. Most commonly, that's going to be the ankle on the opposite side of the leg that you've pushed, okay? So after I push with my right leg, it's going to be the ankle on my left side. And the reason for that is because I've made him take a step forward. After I reset my hips, that ankle is going to be within reach. So what we're going to do is we're going to do, like we did on Tuesday, 4 repetitions, side to side, and grabbing the ankle in between each one. Okay, so it'll look like this. 1, and reset. 2, reset. 3, reset. 4, and reset. Okay, I'll do it from the side real quick here, guys. Pay special attention to my hips. When I go to reset the hip angle, my hips come up a little bit. And I'm not necessarily doing that through sheer like abdominal strength. I'm just standing up on his arms. And I'll show that again in a moment here. So I'm in my knee-elbow connection, grab, and I put my hooks in. Notice I make a little outward circle. Okay, he moves to my right. I extend. My hips are facing him, remember. I should be kind of like on my side. Try to get a full extension here, guys. I'm trying to push that arm away from me. Once I'm in this position, I'm going to lift my hips up by pushing my feet down, like I'm trying to stand up on top of him. That centers my hip angle back up. And look, I immediately drop and just grab the ankle. Okay? I'll show one more time on the other side. Push him away. He's taken the step that I need. So now I can start to lift my hips, reset, and grab the ankle. Again, this is accomplishing essentially the same thing we were doing on Tuesday. We're trying to gain lever access on our opponent's shoulders and extend them out in various ways to help us retain our guard. Does anybody need to see it again?
No, sir.
All right, so make sure that you're getting good extension. 4 for 4. 1, 2. Here we go. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, so let's look at a couple things here, and then we're going to look at how we can use the other leg as well in an emergency. So the one thing that I was mentioning to a few groups was connections. Remember, when I'm playing guard, I'm trying to get as many connections on my partner as possible. And essentially, connections are just grips, right? So I want as many points of contact as I possibly can get. So right now, I have 4. That's the maximum number of connections. I can't grow another limb and use that as well. So I always want to try to have at least 3 to 4 connections on my opponent. So as we're doing this motion here, he's moving to one side. I still have 4 connections. As I reset my hip angle, I still have 4 connections. Now, I only release a connection if I have a placeholder to move to. And a placeholder is just the replacement of what I'm letting go of. So if I'm letting go of his sleeve, it's because I'm going to another piece of connection. In this case, it's the ankle, which is a superior position for guard retention and for sweeping. So I'm upgrading here, okay? If I'm in this position and I let this foot come out, now how many connections do I have? I only have 3, okay? So if I were to start resetting my hip angle right now, he can start passing my guard because I no longer have a connection on that side. So I still want to keep this foot in this arm, and both hands grabbing. Remember that, guys, what we're doing right now is we're practicing a spider guard control. The spider guard itself is an entire guard position that you can use to attack and submit and sweep people. We're not worried about that. We're just worried about how can we manipulate the levers of my opponent's shoulders using this position. So we're looking at it just in the purest form of guard retention. So we're in this situation, guys. This is looking good. So ideally, I'm going to be using the leg on the side of my opponent's, that my opponent's passing towards. Okay, so if he's passing to my left side, I'll use my left leg. If he's passing to my right side, I use the right leg. Now, let's say there's a situation in which I can't use this leg. Okay, maybe he's beat this leg, he's swum underneath, and he's pinned it to the floor. Okay, in this situation, I can't gain lever access on this shoulder, right? Because I can't get this leg free. So it's okay, I'm just gonna use what I have available to me. I'll start extending the other leg. Okay, so I'm extending the left leg instead, which is still giving me lever control. It's still gonna make it difficult for him to come down on top of me. Additionally, this allows me to start getting his weight moved in a different direction just slightly, allowing me to generally free this leg. I circle and put it back in, and I can come right back to where I wanted to be in the first place. So what we're going to look at now is our partner is going to move to the one side, doesn't matter. As they're moving, they're going to do a basic spider break, so they're going to circle their hand under, and they're going to pin your leg to the floor. Okay? As soon as they do that, we're going to extend the opposite foot now. Okay? If I lost the sleeve grip, I always go get it back, but I'm extending the opposite leg now. All I'm going to do is just swim my leg back in, put my hook on, reset, hip angle, and go right back to where you wanted to be initially. So essentially, we're just adding one additional step to the drill you guys just did. Okay, so again, the drill will look like this. I get my hooks in, he moves, he circles out, he pins my leg down. I extend and regrip as many points of contact, guys. So if I do this, I only have 2 points. So I want to make sure that I get a third point. So if I broke my sleeve grip, I'm going to grab his sleeve. I'm extending this leg away, circle in, come back to where you want it to be, and now I'm just going to reset my hip angle and grab onto the ankle. I'll show an entire repetition without talking. Okay, and now I'm back where I started. So I want to make one more quick note before we drill this, guys. When we're getting our legs into the position, into the spider guard position here, try not to rely on leg flexibility to get your feet into a position, okay? So let's say if I have a hook on this side and I want to get my other foot in, I don't want to try to rely on like a little circle here, okay? I want to rely more on creating a frame. So I'm actually going to leg press forward and then make my circle. The reason for that is because if I'm just trying to pick my leg up, it's easier for him to just do what we call a throw by and just kind of throw my leg right past him. So I want to make sure I'm extending my knee and then circling my hook in, creating a frame and then circling. Okay, if I just try to do this, again, different people have different body types that facilitate different things, right? My legs are long enough that I could just circle my foot in without much problem, okay? If I have thicker legs, maybe not as flexible of legs, I would need to use the shin first and then circle in. Just because as I bring this foot in, it's putting my leg in an angle where he could easily drag it across his body. Okay, it's kind of like a leg drag, except you're just throwing the leg past really quickly. Okay, so again, just be wary here. As I'm bringing this leg in, don't let your foot point away from them. Keep your foot pointing towards them. So push your shin forward and then circle it up. Okay? So we're still going to do 4 times. This is going to take a little bit longer, and it's going to require a little bit more coordination. So start slow, right? I'll show a couple times on both sides. So he gets grips. So again, I'll push the shins forward and get my hooks in. He moves. 1, Coach Seth circles his hand in, and he pushes my leg down to the floor. Get the grip back. Extend the opposite leg. I need to maintain some form of lever control, okay? Now I'm going to bring my other leg towards me. Step. Now I go back to where I wanted to be. Reset the hips and grab the ankle. Okay, and then we'll go to the other side. I'm here. He circles the hand in, pushes my leg to the ground. Grab again. Extend. And now I'm just going to bring this other foot through. Go back to where I wanted to be. Reset the hips. And you're back to where you started. So if you can use lever control in conjunction with all of the other guard retention stuff that we've looked at, framing, hip escaping, Granby, high leg, your guard should be really, really annoying to pass. And that is exactly the whole point here. Your guard should be the most frustrating thing in the world, right? It should feel like have somebody stuck in a spider web or like stuck in quicksand or something. So these are all just little things that we can utilize that are not necessarily based on strength or flexibility, but are based on mechanical advantage. I'm accessing levers or frames to keep my opponent off of me. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Would anyone like to see this part again? Okay, ready guys, 1, 2.